to the latest sparkling edition of Plank of the Week, because here we are once again, it's that time, and there's an awfully big list this week. I mean, every week the list just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And today, I'm delighted to say, it's the return of Kevin O'Sullivan. He's going to try and be miserable, as I know how hard it is for him to be. He's going to try and be miserable. Abby Roberts here as well. Welcome back, Abby.
How am I doing?
Thank you very much. You're obviously the beauty in between the two beasts. So that's how it's going to be. And I don't know, we've had sporting activity, we've got quite a lot of politics in the mix.
Yeah.
We've got quite a few mentions, probably, of COVID and the dreaded thing. Do you want to kick us off with your first nomination?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Ladies first.
Yeah, when I do that with my hand, that's usually referring to the person I'm sending my hand towards. But obviously,
why can't we do that with your hand?
Since they've taken all the screens down, I don't know what to do.
Exactly. Who am I?
Yeah.
Right, shall we kick off with Gary Lineker?
Gary Lineker's always a popular choice in my view.
Gary Lineker.
He's doing quite well for himself, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, don't forget he announced that he was immune from that pronouncement because he's not technically an employee.
Yes. I did enjoy seeing a story in the Sunday Times at the weekend which said that collectively over the past couple of years the BBC has lost approximately 1,500 years of experience. All various people who have left because they're no longer required.
They've just bailed, even though don't the BBC employ something like the Chinese army?
They've got about 25,000 people working there.
Just absurd bureaucracy. But Gary Lineker, lovely Gary, who I used to quite fancy actually.
Did you?
In the 1990s. He's just
when
lovely
he was a
legs.
player.
When he was an actual player. As opposed to a kind of ranting liberal lefty.
Yeah.
When Emma Raducanu, I hope I've pronounced that right, otherwise I will look like a racist.
Yes.
When she won, aged 18, one of the biggest US champion, tennis champion, US Open.
Yeah.
Thank you for
the biggest US Open in the world.
You can tell I don't watch any sport. Thank you for helping me out there.
I actually watched the game in case you wanted any tips. Yeah, it was great.
Thank you.
It was really good.
I'll get some for you later. But when Woody won, various people, including Sir Gary of Lineker, said, "Oh, how ironic, because she's an immigrant, because her mum's Chinese and her dad's Romanian." And I'm like, Gaz, you idiot. She's just won one of the biggest tennis championships in the world. Why are you focusing on where her parents are from? And also, call me old-fashioned, but if you're saying she's an immigrant, maybe that makes you a racist.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But there's all the usual suspects. Julian Moron was at it as well.
Yeah, Fox Clubbers.
Sadiq Khan, Alistair Campbell,
David Schneider.
All of them, Adil Ray, all of them felt the need to say she's not really British.
Yes, and you don't really think she is.
What it is they cannot stand a triumph for Great Britain.
That's
what it is.
Because actually, what the truth of what they've said is that they actually don't like Britain very much.
Yeah, that's what
and they
it is.
actually hate the fact that somebody who is an immigrant does actually like Britain quite a lot and has chosen to live here because her family wanted to live here.
Has the Union flag flying proudly next to her.
Right.
We should be very proud of her. The other thing as well is they're conflating. They always do this. The left. Sorry guys, but it is the left.
It's always the left.
We're getting problems from. Who are always banging on about how wonderful and virtuous they are. They're conflating the immigration that we're seeing at the moment from illegal immigrants coming across the channel, like thousands of them, just literally all men,
walking
by the way, all men. I'm sure with no intention of doing anything terrible at all to our wonderful liberal democracy. No, none of that, because there's only young
jobs.
only young men.
They just fancy a week
at the Travelodge.
Exactly.
They don't mean us any harm. They just want a job.
They've heard great things about us because we did nothing wrong in Afghanistan or Iraq. But anyway, moving on.
Yes.
They're conflating those two things. That makes me really angry because now Emma's triumph is being
they've
sullied.
sort of tainted, haven't they? Julian Moron's tweet was all about, and he of course famously for the fox killer, the man that beats an innocent fox to death, dressed in his wife's kimono on Boxing Day a couple of years ago.
A horror from which he's never
absolutely
recovered.
ghastly individual, right? And he put out a tweet with a picture of it was a screenshot of a Daily Express article which was talking about how great she was. This was before she even won it. And he puts out a thing going, "Oh yeah, the Express loves an immigrant as long as they're white." To which I thought, well, actually, she's not white.
Technically, she's not white.
She's not white, because remember when somebody from China won an Oscar? That was called the first time a director of colour.
Asian, isn't it?
They called it a person of colour even though she was actually Chinese, was in fact the first woman of colour to win Best Director.
They are it's like literally,
and they're getting so confused.
Here's a thing that they in all this sort of she's an immigrant, Romania, Chinese. The bit of her background that they don't mention is she was born in Canada. She lived for 2 years in Canada, but they don't go on about the Canadian bit because Canada's all white.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't like that.
Well,
they don't like that.
Apart from when Justin Trudeau's got his blackface on, and then he's not very white.
What they're really trying to say is she's not really all that British, so don't start celebrating this great triumph.
And if you do celebrate this great triumph, you've got to let loads more people in on the dinghies. Somehow that's the two things are connected to them.
But also, do you remember when Andy Murray won Wimbledon? Oh, he was a Scot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was very
but for the rest of us, he became English.
He became English, precisely. There's a strange,
It's a very odd thing. And Sadiq Khan, as you say, also kind of claimed her for London, didn't he?
Yeah.
This is what London is all about.
Yeah, Bromley's not in London.
Bromley's not really in London, I can tell you that. And if you live in Bromley, you don't live in London, so forget about
Sadiq Khan, honestly.
But I mean, Sadiq Khan may go into his own category because we have to carry something over from last week, and I think he might be carried over from last week, partly because of his role in the Cressida Dick situation. So, Kevin, I'm going to come to you. What's your first nomination?
The NHS.
Right.
Partly because it is the NHS.
Want to clap for them?
And the way, I mean, why it is still generically referred to as our amazing NHS remains a mystery, considering it's a pile of rubbish.
It's getting worse by the day, too.
Last week, Boris Johnson, like every single cowardly Prime Minister and pusillanimous politician before him, instead of confronting what the NHS really needs, which is root and branch reform and reorganisation to make it more efficient and better able to serve Britain and its health interests, he just threw more money at it. So it already gets 200 billion quid a year. He gave it an extra 36 billion pounds to allegedly deal with the possible 15 million waiting list backlog, and it won't deal with that. It'll never sort that out. However, 36 billion pounds, it was poured into the black hole of the NHS money pit. And how did the NHS immediately respond to this gift, this huge bung of money? It responded in the way that it always does, and this is why it's getting Plank of the Week, is it said, right, thank you for the 36 billion pounds. This enables us to advertise for 42 executives, many of whom will earn £270,000 a year. That's the problem with the NHS.
What could you possibly be doing for the NHS if you're not actually saving lives
diversity
to make
training.
that kind of money?
They
were heads of some organisation I'd never heard of, weren't they?
There are more than 40,000 members of staff at the NHS who earn more than £100,000 a year, and only 10,000 of them are doctors or consultants or surgeons.
Well, only half of the staff are actually medically trained. So half the staff are not even medical.
These are just middle managers who could quite easily go and become manager at Tesco's or something. So they're all on 100,000 or more, and that's what needs to be sorted out. They get rid of them all. Get rid of them all.
But you know what the answer is whenever you ask the question. It's the same as the answer you get when you ask local councils. Why are you paying your chief executive £500,000 a year? And it's always
because we can.
Because they all say,
the government's given us money to do
because they're
it.
in charge of such a big budget. But the only reason they're in charge of a big budget is because it's our money and it's our services that are required to be given to us that we have paid for. You know, and the idea that they've got a big budget is not.
But that argument kind of falls flat when you say, well, we have to give them £500,000 a year because they're in charge of Camden. That's a massive budget. Well, I do believe that the Prime Minister is in charge of a bit of a bigger budget, and he gets a fraction of that.
Yeah, but they can't use that sort of logic on them. I mean, that's common sense.
And also,
it's not allowed.
These execs are, as far as I know, they're into diversity training.
Oh, yes.
Because that's basically what's happening in the NHS now. It's like, don't save people from cancer, tell us what your pronouns are.
Yeah, and also make sure that you tell us where you came from and what sort of upbringing you had and what your parents did for a living.
And what your feelings are. You know, never mind. I mean, it is actually, I mean, the NHS, as I called it when I was on last time, the National Death Service, is basically, I'm so glad that's still funny.
It's still good. It's still good.
You know, it's a sacred...
The NHS, it's to die for.
It's the National Death
a die-at.
It's a die-at. It's a sacred cow if that cow had 3 legs, half an udder and 1 eye.
Yeah.
And it's like...
It really is getting worse and worse by the day, though, as well. You know?
I'm sorry, but Daisy's had her day.
Everybody in every way, every day says, why does everybody worship the NHS to the extent you think, well, maybe they don't worship the NHS, it's just we pretend we
most
do.
people don't.
We're in a state of neurosis about this.
Well, it's another one of these things where if somebody in the street asks you in a poll, you know, what would you like to see happen to the NHS?
Yeah.
Nobody will ever say privatise it or shut it down
I would.
or break it up.
I would.
We're not like other people, though. You know, we are brave,
bringing an American system. That's the way I see it.
I've got no friends in comedy left. After I said we need to dismantle it and start again.
Well, I mean, that is the trouble, isn't it? That is the absolute problem. But I mean, this is the thing. The whole system is failing and falling down around its ears. And Boris Johnson's answer is to give it another 10 billion a year for 3 years. Well done, Boris.
Yeah, but you've got to bear in mind. So
he's already getting 150 billion.
No, it gets 200 billion. 200 billion pounds a year it gets. So that 36 billion quid was extra to that. Their first response, by the way, I kind of slightly misspoke. Their second response was to advertise for 270,000 pounds a year executives. Their first response was, that's not enough, can we have 3.5 billion more? I mean, it is just bizarre.
Meanwhile, people can't see their GPs, they're kept away from hospitals, and let's not forget, the NHS are the ones that, when people were dying during, literally dying, their relatives weren't allowed in to hold their hands.
I know.
At the end of their lives, I mean, we've lost our minds.
I know.
The NHS is not only where patients go to die, it's also where money goes to die.
Exactly, into a great big pit.
You might as well, Richard Littlejohn said this in the Mail the other day, and I said it to friends myself. Giving the NHS 36 billion quid, you might as well walk into Hyde Park and build a great big sort of stack of £5 notes, 36 billion quid's worth, and set fire to it.
Cover it in earth and call
it will
it the
not
Marble
sort
Arch
out.
Mound.
It will not sort out.
Should we do that? Why don't we
put
do
it on
that?
the mound, make the mound bigger. It will not sort out the waiting lists in a month of Sundays.
No, of course not. It will not. However,
Good choice.
It's not the only thing that's badly run, because I've got an unusual one for you this week. Because normally we try and find ways of moving away from all the usual suspects, and I'm going to call the organisers of the Brighton Marathon planks. Now, I don't know whether you've seen this one, right? But the Brighton Marathon is run every year, obviously, right, over the course of I think it was early September. It was last weekend anyway, and it's always done over just over 26 miles, right? However, not in Brighton, because in Brighton this year they miscalculated the length of the race and somehow added some ridiculous amount of extra metres, 568 metres, which is quite a long way. I mean, because if you've run like 26,000...
Don't know why you're looking at me.
I know.
If you've run
26 miles, right?
Yeah.
Well, I obviously haven't, you know. That's what I've got a car for. You know, I've got to go 20 miles, get in the car. No, I think I'll run.
Can you actually take a car if you're in a marathon?
I would.
Hi guys, I'm going to win.
But so the thing is, all these sort of maniacs who run in these things, they take it all very seriously. Right? Got numbers on and everything, and waving to and picking up water bottles.
Dressed as dolphins.
They time everything, and they were all dismayed to find that they were all running a lot slower than they thought, because at the end they were given their time, and they didn't know they'd run an extra 500 metres.
They're all going. Oh, getting a bit older. These marathons are getting harder.
Oh my God.
But this is even worse than you thought, right? Because 4 years ago, the Brighton half marathon was too short by 146 metres. Now, I don't know what's going on in Brighton, but they obviously need a new ruler.
Brighton is just full stop.
Brighton is a weird place.
It is a weird place. Very
supposed to be 26.2 miles. It was too long. 7,500 people took part. But I think whoever's organising the Brighton Marathon and the Brighton Half Marathon, they need to be fired immediately and replaced by somebody who's a manager in the NHS.
Who knows how to measure things.
Who at least can measure things and estimate the length of something.
Well, they get it wrong as well.
Well, no, they just asked for 2.5 billion.
They make it so long everyone dies.
No, they make it 2.5 billion. And, you know, ends in the emergency
36
room.
36 billion miles.
That's what it would be for. So, Abby, come on, let's have your second one.
Yes, they need a woman in charge who knows about length.
Yeah, what about Caroline Lucas? She's the MP for Brighton.
She'd be great. Oh, dear, Caroline.
Can you imagine?
Oh, no.
She'd never agree on anything with herself.
Everybody's really into climate change. That's why we've got so many Green MPs.
I think we get on really well, me and Caroline.
One.
Yeah.
That's how much people really care about climate change. Zilch. They don't care about it.
Heart.
People don't care about climate change, except unless you're Boris Johnson.
So what are we doing now?
Here's a great quote, by the way. One person said, Because they're like cyclist marathon runners, aren't they? They take it all terribly seriously.
Yeah.
You have to when you're running 26
Look at
miles.
this, right? It was a great event, regardless of the mistake. Amazing crowds, and my thoughts go out to those who needed medical attention along the way.
For those extra 568 yards.
That was a great weekend, though, guys. Thanks a lot. I've been able to walk for the last 5 days.
I hate that thing when my thoughts go out.
Yeah.
My thoughts are with. My thoughts.
Yeah.
Why don't you stick your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. Stick your bloody thoughts with us under the
when
shoulder. We
the
don't care
sun
about your
goes
feelings.
shine.
Exactly. Get lost.
You know.
Just get it right. Just get it right.
It's a trope.
The
You have
problem
to
with
say
this
it
country,
now.
right, is we can't seem to get it right. Nothing's right.
Yeah,
It's all wrong.
just don't run for fun.
Right.
Most people that run end up dying early anyway.
Well, of course they do.
Sorry,
Remember that
but
guy,
it's
the
true.
bloke who invented jogging died an early death. Jogging, didn't he?
He did.
Dropped dead while he was running.
Yeah.
And the guy who invented the Atkins diet fell off a curb in New York and died, and he was about 22 stone.
Christ.
Yeah.
There's a lesson in there.
Don't bother with health.
Don't bother.
It's
Yeah.
not worth it.
Yeah, exactly
It's
right.
dangerous.
So, what's
It's
your
dangerous.
second nomination then?
Second nomination.
Yes.
The way you look at me, like, please remember it, Ab.
When I look
yeah.
at you, have you
Please, I
forgotten
know.
it?
All you can see is Madonna.
Have you
from the-
forgotten it? I
from
can
the,
give you a little hint if you
No,
want.
I think I know. It's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse,
Oh, yes.
a.k.a. The chief medical officers, led by Chris Whitty is the
Chris
only one
Whitty
I know.
and the Three Amigos.
Chris Whitty and the 3 amigos, who basically want to, I'm going to carry on doing this, so
You
Mexican
don't have to do
accent.
this
The
accent.
three amigos.
It's rather obscure that you even started.
I had no
doing
idea
it.
Chris Whitty was from Sicily.
Getting a bit nervous. I've started on the
Why have
accents.
you suddenly gone all Spanish?
Anyway,
That's
what's
how
that got to do with
Irish
it?
sounding, isn't it?
We're going around the world, are we?
It's the gig
We're
economy.
just going to start getting more and more offensive
Right.
as we go on.
Yes.
So basically, Chris Whitty, who leads the chief medical officers, has overruled JCVI.
Yeah.
God almighty, all these
Do you know,
weird-
isn't it funny? Sajid Javid today said that
Yeah.
he was taking JCVI's advice
Yeah.
on getting boosters for people over 50,
Yeah.
but they're not taking their advice on giving the jab to kids.
Well, this is what I am.
Go figure.
This is why I think they should get plank, these 4 people, because they've overruled JCVI and they are going to go ahead and, wait for it everyone, in Great Britain in 2021, vaccinate 12 to 15-year-olds. And you know what? It's not going to stop there, is it? Because it's going to go lower and
course it
lower and
will.
lower.
Of course it will.
it isn't. It's the slippery slope.
Do you know that Pfizer, so the plan is to keep going lower and lower. Pfizer are currently testing
For
their...
11-year-olds?
No, it's worse than
Is it
that.
worse?
They are
Worse?
currently testing their vaccine on 6-month-old
6 month-
babies.
You're joking.
Yeah, it's true.
Where are they finding these babies
the
from?
question is,
I mean,
but
what person-
parents say, yep, sure, go ahead.
Yeah,
Here
yeah,
we go.
Yeah, no,
Here's little Matilda.
Yeah.
no worries,
I don't
no
know what the
worries.
thing
Yeah, what do you want to do? Yeah, I want to just inject them with some experimental
Yeah, go
vaccine and
ahead.
see how it
Go
goes.
ahead.
All
Yeah.
right, no
and then
problem.
RA serum. What could possibly
How
go
long do you
wrong?
need them for? Oh, just a couple of hours.
Just a couple of hours,
We'll
yeah.
keep them under observation for a while.
Yeah,
And
I
if they
mean,
start
it-
frothing at the mouth, give us a call.
Honestly, I said to the cab driver on the way here, I said that there are moments in history where you have to choose which side you're on, and this is it.
Yes.
This is the Rubicon we have crossed. I mean, it's shameful. I can't even believe that we're
It's just
that it's been
sinister,
done.
isn't it?
It's
Sinister.
really, really sinister,
Yeah.
and it's part of this whole kind of COVID thing. Where they say they're not going to do something, then they announce they are going to do it.
Right.
It's gaslighting the British public.
It really is. And they're also now saying that it's not actually for their own good. It's for their mental health, not for their physical health.
Yeah.
Because they
Of course.
can't
And
say it's for their
and
physical health
and
because there's no
because there's
medical
There's no
evidence.
medical evidence for it.
There's
Because
no medical
also,
reason
well,
to
it's
do it.
actually there's evidence in the opposite direction because
Yeah.
the JCVI have said it's not actually good for them. It's better
Yeah.
not to give it to them.
Yeah.
But they're also saying, oh, it will make sure that the schools don't close. Well, it won't actually because the only reason the schools closed in the first place was because the government closed them.
But they don't.
It was
They
nothing to
don't
do with
use.
COVID.
But they
Yeah,
don't use.
exactly.
They don't use the term closing schools. They say in order to, it's a good idea to vaccinate 12-year-old kids and 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
In order to avoid disruption at schools. If you send in jab squads to inject every kid in the school,
Yeah.
that will cause disruption.
Exactly. That'll
So
cause-
here's a
yeah.
better idea to not cause disruption in
Yeah.
schools. Don't inject.
Don't
them.
send
there
them
you
in.
Go.
Don't
there you
inject
go.
them.
There you
Super.
go.
Well, this is it. And the other
Let them
thing,
go to school.
which is I find also insidious, is that they've said that they're only going to give them one rather than 2 injections because they're not sure it's safe.
Yeah, but
Well, that'll be okay.
Well, they're
No.
not, they're,
How about you don't give them any?
But they're
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
but they're still giving them an adult dosage,
Yes.
which is strange in itself.
I'll tell you what, why don't you just give-
they're admitting that
Yeah.
you don't give them 2 because it might lead them to have
but
this
but
heart
even if
problem.
they gave
Yeah.
him, even if they gave him a little bit. I've always thought Whitty, although he's often hard to agree with, often very annoying, and his next slide please shtick is infuriating. I've always thought that, although I'm not on his side particularly, that he's a decent man.
I don't think he's a bad guy.
Trying to do the best.
He was at the beginning.
What he thought was best for the nation. In this instance, he's overruled the JCVI. He has become the government's stooge.
Do you not think he's just been told to do it?
Well,
though?
yes, he's become the government's stooge.
And remember back in March?
How can a doctor, how can a physician say, let's give healthy children a vaccine they don't need?
Yeah,
that's
and also,
disgraceful.
but actually, let's take out the word healthy. Let's take out the word healthy. We always have.
Well, no, you can't take it because there are some kids who do require it.
Yeah, but if they require it, they can get it.
I'm not convinced.
There are vulnerable kids and there are kids with conditions.
But I'm not. You see, I'm not convinced by all this. I think when people parrot,
be a handful.
But just a little handful of children. In fact, let's just get those people into experiment.
But I mean,
but the thing is, where's the bodily autonomy? Where's the personal choice? Even I have to say, people who are in their late 70s, 80s, who may have been coerced into having it.
Right.
Why are we sort of like putting people into various sections? It's like if you don't want to have it, don't have it.
Well, it's worth putting kids in a certain section because kids don't need it.
No, but the point is,
kids are not affected by
kids
COVID.
Full stop. Never mind the healthy
business. By COVID.
Well, that's right.
They don't need it.
Yeah.
But
I
they've
agree.
constructed this ridiculous argument that it's for the good of society, and it's like, well, there's lots of things that are for the good of society. I said to one of our correspondents in America, Joe Biden wants people, mandatory vaccinated, right? Yeah. I said, if he really wants to make the place a safer environment, why don't he just ban guns? Because he hasn't done that. And he won't do that. Guess why? Because the NRA won't go for it.
Won't go for it,
right? So in the end, they don't actually want to make everything safe. They just want everybody vaccinated. Because now they're also telling us that if you've had 2 jabs, that's great, but it's not going to protect you. And we've worked out that actually it doesn't really protect you for very long. So now you're going to have a third one.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will say no to that.
Final point a couple of points finally to make about it. First of all, it's been established being vaccinated, A, doesn't stop you getting COVID, and B, doesn't stop you passing it on.
Transmitting it,
So once again, why do it to children? Because they can still catch it and they can still pass it on. And of course, the big question here, and this is like phenomenal, I think, is the fact that kids are going to go into school. The parents will say, I've decided against you, like you have, Mike, against you having the vaccination. I'm your parent, I'm your father, I'm your mother, and I don't think it's safe for you. I don't want to take the risk. Kids can then go to school and be coerced into taking it. And if they take the decision, 12-year-old kid can overrule their parents. That's an outrage. It's just an outrage.
Exactly. And where else do they pit children against their parents? Maoist China, Soviet Union. The kids against the children. It always, because then the kids start telling on the parents and
also
anyway,
I'd be interested to know if it went
route.
the other way, for example, and the parents say wanted the child vaccinated but the child didn't want to be, would they also be supported by the government? I bet they wouldn't. If the kid says no, I want to go against my parents' wishes, I don't want it.
Yes.
I bet you that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's double speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like everything you listen to doesn't mean what it does.
Yes.
What it says. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in Orwellian times.
So it's going to cause so many problems. You're right, Abby. It will pitch parents against their kids, and you can't do that. This government has lost track of its own senses. I mean, it really has. It's not looking ahead.
Well, they're not even pretending now to be sorry that they've reversed their policy. They just do it now and expect everybody just to swallow it.
By the way, they're now saying, oh, maybe we'll all bring in vaccine passports after all.
Yeah, well, we said we wouldn't, but we were going to remain,
just do it on a day-to-day basis. I bet old Sajid Javid said, I know.
Well, he got booed today. He got booed today by his own side in the House of Commons because he was talking about the possibility of bringing mandatory masks back if we need to. I mean, everybody's given up on all that now, so you should just stop.
There's a new religion. It's called, I call them branch Covidians.
Yes.
Because that's what they are. We've got to be
cultists.
Cultists. We've got to be frank about this. They are big
collection
cults.
of cults.
And since when did politicians, since when did a government, a cabinet, appoint itself the sort of health commissars to the nation? It isn't the government's job to keep us healthy.
No.
That's not its job.
Of course it's
Leave
not.
us alone.
Yeah, exactly.
But they want you to be responsible.
Leave us alone to get sick if we want to.
They want you to be responsible so you don't end up in hospital.
If I want to get sick, I should be allowed to do it.
Exactly. Even if you are healthy, you can't end up in hospital because they're all closed.
Also, the world doesn't work like that. The world works in mysterious ways. Largely, they collect taxes from us because of the things that we pay for, some of which are unhealthy, which subsidises the NHS. That's how it works.
Exactly.
If you want us to stop spending money, then you won't have an NHS to put together, and it won't matter whether we're sick or not.
Yep.
But anyway, let's go for your second one, Kev.
My second is Priti Patel. I could nominate her, the Home Secretary, for her constant statements about how she's going to stop the migrants coming across the Channel, and every single statement is greeted by thousands more of them coming across the Channel.
Every time she says anything, more of them arrive.
I think she should get a medal for getting the sort of daily rate up to 1,000 a day.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, I was saying to somebody the other day, might as well just put them on Brittany Ferry's money and bring them over. It'd be a lot quicker.
I mean, dinghy sales have obviously gone way up.
It's getting ridiculous, and of course, she says that she's now changing maritime law so we can tow them back to France,
which is not true.
I'll tell you right now, we will never ever do that.
No.
And the fact that we won't do that means we'll never ever stop them coming across.
Yeah.
So she sort of yodels into the canyon day after day after day saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do, and she never does it. However, I'm going to let her off the migrant crisis for 1 week only, and the reason that she's being nominated as Plank of the Week is for her extraordinary decision to give the world's most useless copper, WPC Cressida Dick of the Yard, another 2 years at the helm of the Met Police.
It's like a sentence for the rest of us, isn't it?
She's useless.
I mean,
she's useless.
Has she got anything right?
She's useless.
Right?
She doesn't get anything right ever.
She hasn't made any right moves, has she?
Hashtag Dick out.
And there they were again yesterday with that idiots insulate Britain, not arresting them. She's got an official policy: don't arrest climate change protesters.
Yeah.
In fact,
because that's all right. That's kind of cool.
In fact, worse than that, not only don't arrest them, but actually protect them from the very people they're stopping from going to work.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of very angry motorists
I loved
there.
it on there's a bit on the M25 when they're there, and the motorist goes and it just tells them
and he
F
just
off.
goes, and there's another one that goes and grabs them and starts pulling
get
away.
out of it.
The police start pulling him off the protester.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous. Plus, of course, she inherited the Operation Midland fiasco and basically tried to cover it up, cover it up. Sort of avoided any payouts of compensation as long as possible. So she's always a kind of mark your own homework copper.
Exactly.
And that's a disgrace in itself. And of course, Sadiq Khan was in the frame for also renewing her contract for 2 years. And the reason that Sadiq Khan wanted to renew it is because she always did exactly what he wanted.
Yes.
In other words, she is the chief of woke policing.
And everything that she's been involved in has been a problem. Going all the way back even to the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, which she was involved in as well, where she was sort of in charge of parts of the police force that didn't investigate.
And what about Menendez?
No. Yeah.
I mean, she actually supervised the wrong assassination of that poor guy on Stockwell's station. Unbelievable.
Yes.
This woman has never done anything right ever. And here's another irony to her reappointment, as it were, was it emerged afterwards that Priti Patel had only allowed it because she couldn't see any other decent rival contenders for the job. Now look at the police force. I guarantee you could walk into any police station now, there'd be some sergeant sitting there who's been doing the job for 30 years who could become chief of the Met Police tomorrow and do a damn fine better job.
But you know why? You know why there isn't going to be someone? Because of common purpose.
Yes.
Every institution, including the police.
She ticks all the right boxes
exactly,
as well.
And she leads, by above her pay grade, and that's why if you haven't been invited to become a common purpose, on those courses that they do, which more and more people are finding out now, you will not be selected. You've got to be. So Cressida Dick and Sadiq Khan, they're both, I don't know, I'm doing that.
Or something
well, no, it's worse than that.
It's worse.
Yeah,
blimey.
common purpose.
It does make you ask the question: what do you have to do to get fired from the Metropolitan Police?
Well, exactly. But
arrest somebody.
Stephen Lawrence's mum, she's protested against it. All the victims of Operation Midland, Paul Gambaccini, the widow of Leon Britton, the son of Lord Bramwell, both of them are no longer with us. Harvey Proctor, whose lives were ruined by that ludicrous investigation that she basically endorsed. She didn't launch it, to be fair, but she basically
because
endorsed
they want to bring the establishment down. That's really the point.
And also, she's presided over a police force that gave no recriminations to anyone for Operation Midland. In fact, the sort of deputy guy who was in charge of it has gone up and up and up, and is now on about 350 grand a year. It's an absolute disgrace.
It's just another part of the British society is not fit for purpose.
Top coppers. It's this. Look, when somebody gets their car nicked, investigate. If they get beaten up in the street, investigate. If they get their house burgled, investigate. Don't just say, oh no, that's beneath us.
Yeah.
We're not going to patrol the streets. We're going to patrol the tweets.
Yes.
We've got to find some hate crimes on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's what she is. She's a hate crime investigator.
Yeah.
And
Non-crime.
so
Non-crime, hate crime.
So Priti Patel
Priti Patel
for
is a pretty good
endorsing this useless WPC
Common
is a
purpose
disgrace and
setting sun.
definitely plank of the week.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to go for Gavin Williamson as my particular cabinet
Damn, you
member.
just beat me.
Plank.
You just beat
Du
me.
jour.
Got so many
Du
planks.
jour.
So many planks. We
Well,
could build a
Gavin,
cabin in a wood with all this plank.
The thing about these politicians is you like to think that they've got brains. You like to think that they've got an idea in their head of how they should be
Yeah.
and what they should say and who they should say it to. But Gavin Williamson, a great example of a complete and utter plank who seems to not think that it's a massive and stupid mistake to make, to mistake one black footballer for another black rugby player. Because I don't think for a minute it was because he's racist.
No.
I
It's
'cause
think
he's
it's because he's an
stupid.
idiot.
Yeah.
He's a complete idiot, right?
He's a complete dunderhead.
He's a dunderhead.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to run his own department.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know what his policy is until he gets told it's already been introduced by Boris Johnson. But this particular thing was an Evening Standard interview that he did, in which he talked about how he'd had a very nice Zoom meeting with Marcus Rashford and how he thought he was quite a nice young man, but he was unfortunately called away from the meeting and he didn't spend as much time with him as he would like to. Until, of course, they got caught up with Marcus Rashford to get his side of the story. And it turned out
It wasn't me,
it wasn't
Governor.
me, Gov. He's never spoken to the guy.
I was so elsewhere.
And actually, one of the things
God.
that people say, whether you like Marcus Rashford or not, and
Yeah.
his campaign, you know, he has done quite a good job of raising people's awareness of stuff. You'd think the education minister, given what Marcus Rashford's been banging on about, might have spoken to him instead of just not speaking to him. But it turns out that he, in
I wouldn't
fact,
speak to Marcus Rashford.
no, well, you wouldn't. But then you're not the
Just
education
play
minister.
football.
Well, yeah, but if he's a celebrity and you've got any brains and you're a cabinet minister, you make
You make
sure
it your
that
business.
you make something out of
Yeah.
that and you make yourself popular. But instead, it turned out he had an interview with Maro Itoje, but then said. It got his people to issue a statement saying that it was Mario Itoje, which of course got his name wrong. In addition, so
Mario.
he sort of made it even worse. And I mean, you have to say the guys actually took it quite well. Itoje said this: due to recent speculation, I thought it was necessary to confirm that I am not Marcus Rashford. And whilst we are here, my name is not Mario either. So I mean,
Yeah.
completely
God.
stitched
I had a
himself
very
up.
nice meeting with a rugby player called Super Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah,
brother.
Yeah.
I know. But it
God.
also, the great lesson from all of this is that politicians and sport do not mix.
They do not mix,
David
no.
Cameron made an idiot of
Yeah.
himself because he couldn't remember whether he
Villa.
supported Aston Villa or West Ham
Yeah,
because they
yeah,
both
yeah.
played claret
Don't-
and blue.
yeah, yeah, don't
Tony
get into-
Blair claimed that he saw Jackie Milburn play football when
Yeah.
he couldn't possibly have because he wasn't around at that
Yeah.
time. You know, all
Sport
of these
and
kind
music.
of sport
And music. You know, there you
as
go.
well.
My favourite band is The
Yeah.
Smiths. David Cameron.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure
really?
it is.
Yeah, of
yeah
course.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah, of
can you
course.
name one of their songs?
Did you ever listen to their lyrics,
charming
David?
man.
They're not exactly right up the Tory
Yes,
party
that's right,
leaders'
those-
street.
right,
are they?
those straws,
Now
so-
we're running out of time here, so we better go with your
Oh,
number
better go with
3.
me. Oh no, it's quite a big one.
Is it?
Well, it's a huge.
All right,
it's-
well, you haven't got a lot of time.
Okay, well let's just do it quickly.
Rattle
then.
through it.
Okay, the West,
The West.
You're not West London.
not West London.
No.
No, the West.
Not-
the entire
West.
the entire
Not West
landmass.
Sussex,
Not
like the whole
Sussex,
West.
The whole West.
Right.
Basically, because we have. What are we doing? We've lost our marbles. Not just the Elgin marbles.
Yeah.
We've lost all our marbles.
Right.
Because we're forgetting the Enlightenment. We're forgetting our wonderful principles of liberal democracy. And I love the fact Kev's on his phone when I'm.
I know.
It's,
I'm quite
it's
sure
so,
what
it's
he's
so
doing.
Try
boring.
and sort my show out.
Well, you can't
He's
be
only
doing
doing-
that during this show. I mean, this is a proper
So
show that we're doing
he's
here.
googling the West.
Yeah,
What does she
he's
mean
going,
by
the
that?
West what?
So basically,
West Malling.
West Ham. So basically, the West, because we're forgetting all of it, and we're giving away the wonderful things about Western culture to the woke,
Yeah.
the radical left, and people who dress their women all in black with their faces covered.
Yes.
You know,
I did
in
enjoy
Afghanistan.
seeing that picture of the Taliban women at university where they're all sitting there with their
all
hoods
sitting
on.
there with their hoods on.
They
going,
look like the KKK in reverse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a
it
negative
is.
picture of the
It is
KKK.
reverse. You know, and you see Kim Kardashian at the Met Gala. She appeared literally everything
Yeah.
covered in black. Couldn't
Sort of gimp outfit.
see where exactly gimp out. Couldn't find out where she was going. Sort of Taliban chic. So do you know what? The West. good luck to us. We deserve everything we get because we've given it all away.
Yes.
Thanks to the left.
I think that's a
Well
very
done.
good analogy. We have given it all away. Kevin,
Yeah.
your
Well,
third one.
I was gonna nominate Laura Tobin for the other woke weather reporter on Good Morning Britain. Apart from that total tool, Alex Beresford. But you know what? I've changed my mind.
Have you?
I'm going to want to do someone more high profile.
I quite liked her
Laura
because
Tobin went up to Norway and started weeping because the snow was melting and that her daughter might never get to see a polar bear.
I mean, does she not just take it to London Zoo like everybody else?
Yeah.
There's a load of them there. You know,
Just
get
grow
on
up. Grow up. So anyway, I've decided they're just so beneath contempt that
Okay.
I'm going to come up with someone a bit more high profile who I think thoroughly deserves Plank of the Week.
Go on then.
Prince Andrew.
Oh, right.
Who is behaving like a dodgy fugitive on the run from justice. I mean, if he thinks...
Is that because he is a dodgy fugitive on the run from justice?
Oh, that must be it. I wonder what it was.
Yeah.
No, but if he thinks that ducking and diving and saying, "Oh, look out! Here comes the paper server. I'll run for it."
Yeah, no, I was saying.
If he thinks
funny
that-
enough, earlier on to Abby, I said, you know, can you imagine? Andrew, I'm not here. I'm not here.
In a different voice, in a Scottish accent. I'm not here.
My son's not here. You know.
Yeah. So if he
Yeah,
thinks
well-
ducking and diving
Yeah.
and trying to avoid the papers, the document server, and then trying to say, but we don't recognise this because of something that Alan Dershowitz said. You know, I wouldn't trust Alan Dershowitz as far as I could throw him. You know, that this whole case doesn't hold any water. You can't serve the papers on me. If he thinks that's going to get him off
really
the hook,
isn't gonna
he's
help,
got
is it?
another thing coming.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
getting. I mean, you know, I happen to know one of his top legal advisors,
Oh, yeah.
who is
Well,
a
you're
very
saying girlfriends, then?
who's a first-class guy, and,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it's a kind of feasible legal ploy what's going on. But in the end, he is too high profile to duck, dive,
It's
and
a
avoid.
grubby manoeuvre, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
It may, you know, and people, ordinary people around the country are just going, "Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
You said you didn't do it. Face up to,
Right.
you know, put up and shut up. Face up to the facts. Go and talk to that court and tell them the truth."
And they
of
can
course-
still try him in
of
absentia,
course,
in
you know,
absentia anyway, can't
there
they?
was a poll after
Well,
the
that's the thing. If he doesn't go,
can try him in
they're more
absentia.
likely to find him guilty.
Well,
anyway.
that's 100%
Yeah.
they'll find
Yeah.
him guilty. The judge is already furious.
Yeah.
Which is
with
kind of
him,
worse,
because he said
because he
said
hasn't even won't
he
even
said,
be there.
He said yesterday, "Can we stop with all these legal manoeuvres
Yeah.
and get to the substance?"
Right.
So he's not going to allow
No.
all this trickery.
No.
He wants the case to be heard. You know,
Yeah.
the fact we've got to the state of affairs where a prince of this realm, the Queen's favourite son, her second son, is accused of paedophile rape, and there's a court case starting in New York, is just astonishing. And Prince Andrew has got to grow up and face the facts and act like a man.
Yeah.
And stand up to these
Stop
accusations.
bottling it, absolutely right. Well, funnily enough, it's a very good nomination you've made, and it is more important than Laura Tobin, but she's still a bit of a plank, so we'll keep her kind of on the,
Hold on,
the
reserve.
back burner.
Oh,
I'm
reserve.
gonna-
We're
my
never gonna see
final
a polar
one
bear.
is something else that doesn't work properly. It's the DVLA. I don't know if you've had any dealings with them recently, but if you try and get anything out of DVLA now, everything takes at least 3 months to do. I know people who have applied for British licenses because they've come in from a different country, so they want to come. They've taken their passport, they've taken their working papers, they've taken everything and held on to it for 5 months, and then still not sent it back. You know, I've got friends who are trying to get provisional driving licenses for their teenagers, right? And they can't get them working. They can't get them out. And you know, when I was sent this from somebody who said they decided just to cancel the first application and start again, right? Even though they've already paid 35 quid. This is the message you get from the DVLA. Hi there, thanks for getting in touch. Cancelling the application won't guarantee that the second application will be successful. If you continue with the current one, your son will need to include a covering letter explaining an error was made. To discuss this further or cancel the application, please call our online help desk. But what happens when you call the online help desk, because we tried this, is somebody answers the phone and says, "We're very busy," and puts the phone down.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody there.
they're
It's
in
a huge building, right,
Yeah.
in Swansea.
In Swansea. Sorry, love.
17-storey building,
There's nobody
right?
there. Yeah.
And they've social distanced as per the Welsh
of
rules,
course.
right?
Yes.
So there's
Great
hardly
for
anybody
rules.
there.
Yeah.
There's only about two
Yeah.
people in the entire building. And apparently one of the reasons we've got HGV problems, right, is if you're trying to renew your HGV licence, it's taking 10 months to get it back.
That's ludicrous.
It's just horrendous.
I mean,
Officials in that
Drakeford's Wales is a basket case.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I tell you what, if you don't, you
but
want to
this
see
guy
what.
got re-elected.
Yeah.
What
of
does that
course.
all tell you?
Yeah. They love a good communist.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Welsh.
So that's my third. Right, so we're going to need to get them down from 9 to 3. Okay. So,
God.
Kevin, why don't you tell Abby what your 3 are?
It was the NHS for hiring 42 to £270,000 a year executives after getting 36 billion quid, the black hole money pit. That is the NHS. Priti Patel for rehiring the astronomically useless Cressida Dick of the Yard, and finally Prince Andrew for acting like a common crook.
So what do you reckon?
Well, I'm going to go for, it's got to be the NHS.
Yeah.
The NHS is a good one.
Choice.
The NHS is actually building up quite a head of steam in the charts for the annual Plank of the Year Awards. Right, so you tell me yours.
Mine were Gary Lineker.
Yes.
The 4 chief medical officers.
Oh, yes.
Chris Whitty and the children's jabs.
Yes.
Yep. And then the West.
Yes, I'm a bit confused about the West. Even I like it. I quite like it. I'm going to go with Chris Whitty and his 3 amigos because I think this week he has made his return, hasn't he?
Should be Chris Whitty.
Yeah. Child abuse.
The others that I thought seemed a little uncomfortable with it. He's just done
I'm making
his
it his
bid.
I'm making it his bed that he's lying.
Yeah.
So he's going to get it on his own. Right, Gavin Williamson, the DVLA and the Brighton Marathon. My 3.
Well, I think. Because I always like to zone in on the individual, and he is absolutely useless on a daily basis. Gavin Williamson.
So, we have Gavin Williamson, the NHS, and Chris Whitty as our 3 nominees. So that's 1, 2 and 3 in whichever order we decide to put them. I would suggest it should be Chris Whitty, I think.
I think Chris Whitty.
I think he's
because of the children's jabs.
As I say in showbiz, this week he jumped the shark.
Yeah,
he stopped being a decent medical officer and started doing exactly what the government told him.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And the NHS number 2, maybe?
I think NHS number 2 because they're linked very strongly, aren't they? Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
So Chris Whitty, the NHS number 3, coming in as Gavin Williamson. I mean, he's lucky Williamson. I mean, most weeks you'd think mistaking Marcus Rashford for Maro Itoje. I mean, that would be absolute winner. Yeah, unbelievable. Anyway, so Chris Whitty, well done. It's not for the first time, but he hasn't been in it for a while because he's been keeping a bit of a low profile.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid Chris Whitty, Chief Medical Officer, is now Plank of the Week. Thanks to Abby, thanks to Kevin. We'll see you next time.